my name is Cheri. Welcome to my Stampin' Up! Studio. I'm going to do a card for you today that has, well, it's a beautiful card and it's fun to make, but there's two reasons that I chose the elements in this card to do. One is I'm using the Sweet as a Peach bundle, and I have an online class that registration ends for on July 8th. So the class will happen online. You'll get the supplies mailed to you. There's different ways you can participate, from getting the stamps and the dies, or just the cards, or just the videos. But the class will take place probably the third week in July. I'll let everybody know in a couple of days. When you register, then you'll get an email after everybody's signed up, and I'll let you know when it's coming to you. So I wanted to use this. It's a really, really fun set to have for the summer, and it can make lots of different things. It also has a paper that goes with it, and the Designer Series paper is on sale. Not all of it, but there's 9 different patterns, and the peach paper is one. So this is a card I've made in the past, and for this one I used the peach paper on sale just in July, like to August 2nd. It's I don't know, in July to August, but get it soon because you'll want to be able to use it. So I made this card. You can see it has the peaches, it has some of the flowers, and it has that beautiful peach paper. But I wanted to use one of the other papers because you don't always have to have the paper that goes with the sweet. So I'm going to use, for my Designer Series paper on this card, this is, you can tell from the Bloom Where You're Planted paper, which is also on sale. Another fabulous bundle. I was supposed to do a class with it in July, so if you're hanging on for it, it's going to have to move. Most of you know that my father has been in the hospital, and my mom's had a couple of surgeries, so some of my 5-day work weeks are being reduced to 2. So it's all I can do to get everything in. So I will do this class because I love it. It'll just be pushed a little bit later. But I went with this side, and then I'm going to use this beautiful rose gold paper. And you can see on this one, I used the gold. So it's a double pack. It comes rose and it comes gold. Celebration starts in August, and there's a silver one. I haven't seen it yet. By the time this posts, I will have seen it. So I don't know if it's the same texture, but this is super fun paper to work with. So let's get going. The card looks like it might take a long time, and it doesn't take very long at all. So I like cards like that. So I have cinnamon cider. I'm going for a rustic look. And then I have my little wood piece. And then we're going to do our stamping on some shimmer white. So shimmer white has a pretty coating on the paper that's shimmery, and it allows us to do a little bit of watercolor work with it. So for my flowers, I'm going to do them in Petal Pink and Flirty Flamingo. So the flowers come grouped on a set of 3. So I'm gonna get 9 flowers. I'm gonna stamp on my Petal Pink first. Open my Flamingo. And then I'm just gonna take this and kind of roll some of the edges so all the flowers will look a little bit different. So there's our first set. Get some Petal Pink. This one I'll do a little bit less of the flamingo. And you can see then how they start to have their own character. And then this time I'll do a little bit more. So we have those. Now here's what I'm gonna do, and the reason I chose shimmer paper, other than the fact that it's beautiful, is I'm gonna take my water painter, and it just has water in it. This is the small tip one, I think. And I'm gonna kind of blend these colors, because you see that line right there? Not a big fan of the line, but a huge fan of the shading. So you gotta work with what you have. So I'm moving this kind of around. It takes a minute for the paper to get wet enough that you can work with the ink. So let's get them all wet first. Smear those around, have some water on my flowers. And then I'm gonna take my Flirty Flamingo pad, and you can see I've squished some ink on the top. And now I'm gonna use this, and it's gonna melt into that water that's still on there because I was a little generous with my water. I can fade that line in and kind of fade to the middle. So now they really take on that watercolor feel. But if you do this on basic white or vanilla cardstock, you're more than likely going to, your paper will pill up because it won't hold this much water. And there's not a ton, but there has to be enough that you can kind of move that ink around. And you can make those lines go all the way away. So now we have some really pretty shading. Then I was going to do the same thing with my leaves because I went with 2 colors as well, but the leaves don't even need it. And I'll show you what I mean. I have Just Jade and Shaded Spruce. So let's stamp with the Just Jade, which is the lighter green. And then I'm going to take the edges and get them in the Shaded Spruce, which is a pretty dark green. It's one of our darkest bright greens. It's one of my favorite colors. So see, the lines in that are so minuscule because the colors are similar enough that you don't even need to do the blending with the water. You can if you want because it's fun. But just to give us some drying time, I opted not to. So we need 2 sets of leaves. We're gonna come back to all these stamp pads in a little bit. And then really fun sayings in the peach set. And for this one, I'm just gonna go, most of them have something to do with peaches or tying in some cute sayings with peaches. Since I'm not using peaches, I'm just gonna go with the happy birthday. And I got this in cinnamon cider. So we'll just trim that out because there isn't a die that, there is a little label die in here, but it's for the smaller sayings, but that's okay. We'll just use our scissors and we'll pretend it's 1995 when I started with Stampin' Up. And back then we didn't have any, there was no such thing as a die cutting machine in the craft world, or at least in the stamping world. And there weren't hardly any punches. So we did a whole lot of cutting out. There wasn't even a paper trimmer. So it was scissors. So there we go. And that's, I mean, it is what it is. It looks fine. There's a lot going on this card, so nobody's going to tell that it's a little bit hand cut. And it kind of adds to the country feel of this card. And I'm going to go back to my cinnamon cider. And these are dry enough now because I didn't put that much water on them. There's a little flower center. So I'm going to give all of my flowers a little center. I'm stamping full strength on all of them. I thought about doing some of them, you know, the second time, but I really like the way this looks. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So now we have that. So now we're gonna do our die cutting. And you can see this is all of the dies that it comes with. Here's the little label I was telling you about. And here's all the peachy things. There's a branch, way more of these little flowers than we're gonna use, but we are gonna use some of those. So let's pull this over. We'll start with doing these. So you can see this is fabulous. It cuts them all out at once. Just like that. And the same with the flowers. The same way we stamped it. See here? It's stuck on my magnet, which is what it's supposed to do. But it will cut all 3 of these at once. So you're not messing with tons of little dies trying to get them all wound up around your flowers. You also don't do the spinny, 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 trying to get it the right direction because the 3 sets of flowers match the die. So I'm gonna run all these through and then I'll fast forward. Okay, so I've done all those. Now I'm going to, don't need to run all that paper through, and plus I need a little bit more of my board. So put the flowers back on. And then get that little piece of rose paper that I cut out. I'm gonna do 1 set of big flowers. And then I'm gonna do a couple of the leaves. I like the leaves that are stuck together. So there's tons of these. I'm not using all of them. When we did the peach card at camp in June at my in-person event. And so they had enough room that they could do them all. So everybody did them all, but then, you know, you have to glue them all on. And after a while, you're like, yeah, there's enough of these. But it is nice that they give you so many tiny little dies. And that is why I have these in the magnetic tray, because there's so many little dies that I'm afraid I have magnet boards all over my craft room because I have lots of dies. And now I'm going to show you a tip for this. So I'm not going to pull them out. But I'm afraid I could lose those little dies if they fall off my board. So I just keep them in this magnetic tray. Now, our holiday catalog comes out soon, and probably by the time this posts, I will have mine. So make sure that you watch my video on the products that I get. I'm not going to get all of them. And I know that there is a folder called Timber, and I really want the Timber, but I don't have it yet. So I'm going to use this wood grain one. And that way it's going to give this, I'm going to make sure the grain goes with the wood. And it's going to give this a little bit more texture. So for this one, you need the gray plate because this is a 3D dynamic folder. So just roll that through. If you have the old Big Shot, you need the blue plate. And if you have the old Big Shot and you never got the blue plate, then you can buy the gray plate and it will work as well. So now we just have to stick all this together, which is super fun to do. So flowers on the back, they look pretty with texture. So if you're gonna run these through your dies that go with this set, you could run them through the texture and it really gives those leaves in the pots great texture. So that's just a little bonus thing. So we're gonna take this, I'm gonna use regular seal. I just loaded it, so it might not be, yep. Just put a brand new one in. So let's start with these up here. They can go off the edge of the card a little bit because this card is smaller than the card base. So we're gonna start with our leaves. Kind of stick those so it looks like they're cascading down. And then before, one of my times, my flowers didn't die cut very well. These all did pretty well. So if you have one that are kind of off the side, you know, sometimes they kind of move, then start with those. These all look really good. So just put them on wherever you want them. Now you can see these little points of leaves, of stems, I mean, those are obviously where our flower is supposed to go, and then the rest of them you just kind of build up from that. But you don't want any dead stem just hanging there. So I did about 2/3 of them maybe, so they were flat to the card, and then the rest we're going to add with dimensionals, but so you can cover those holes up where it's intended for there to be flowers or peaches. If you're doing the peaches, there's the big peach, but then it comes with the little peaches too, and the little peaches fit nicely on that. So now I've got these three. So let's switch to some dimensionals, and you'll need the baby ones because these are little flowers, or you could cut your big ones in half. Oh, before I do this, I forgot my other stamping. So I have there's tiny little leaves and tiny little flowers. So we're gonna go to the tiny little flowers first because that'll determine where we put the tiny little leaves. So this is gonna kind of help us build it out now. You give a little bit more stamping. So you have to push solidly because we just added the dimension to the back of this, but you can't stamp first because you don't know where your stuff's gonna be. So just press firmly and they'll be fine. So just add some cinnamon flowers, super cute. And then there's teensy tiny little leaves. I'm gonna go back to the jade. You could do either of the colors. And then just add these. And it kind of just makes this fill up the paper a little bit. I'm just gonna add one set of leaves. It's no rhyme or reason, but everywhere I put the flowers, just so there's kind of a scene building. There we go. Almost forgot that step. Now we'll go and put our dimensional flowers on. So anywhere you might still have those little stems, that's the place you want to stick these. And these are in totally different spots than my first card. So now for these, here's a big tip. See, they're kind of stuck in here because it's glimmer paper. It won't work with all your cardstock because some of them will fall off. I'm going to take this while they're in here, and I am going to put my adhesive on them as long as they stay in. If they fall out, it's okay. And it's not so important on the leaves as it is those tiny little flowers, but now your adhesive's already there. You could use an adhesive sheet if you want, but pulling the sticker sheet off those tiny little flowers is also not fun. So this is the easiest way I found to do this. Now we're just gonna add the leaves in. And you can see there's already the adhesive, so that's great. So just have your take your pick tool, and then you can kind of just slide these in. And again, anywhere you feel like there might be a stem that you don't want there, just cover those up. Okay, I've added the leaves. Now I'm going to show you how to do these flowers. So they stay really well in this glimmer paper. So see, they're stuck to my hand. So now I'm just going to take my take your pick and just push down where you want them to be. So if you don't push too hard and you get them in the wrong spot, you can move them. Let's do one here. But look how much easier that is. Is that not fabulous? Because when I wanted to put them on here, and from the last card I made, I'm like, it takes so long. This doesn't take long. So we're just putting those on there. And then we'll do these 3 little ones, which is amazing that they go on so fast. So you're just poking them right through, and then they have that. See, this one isn't right where I wanted, but I haven't pushed it. All of this will need a little bit of pushing at the end, just to make sure that everything's stuck. But I was quite pleased with myself that I came up with this little thing. Other people may have done it in the past, I don't know. But super, super easy. Now we're done with that part. So then, this is actually where I got my color combination, because I wanted to use this ribbon. And it ended up that there's hardly any ribbon on here. But in fact, I almost didn't add it. And then I'm like, no, you designed the whole color combination around using the ribbon, so put the ribbon on there. So add a little bit. It's hard to get this down in the edges of the, since that paper has that texture to it. So just put this on here. And I kind of just roll this around, and again, going for that rustic feel. A little bit more over here. Just like that. Grab your scissors. If you don't like to tie ribbons, then this is always a fun way to add it. I'm gonna take my words, kind of lay those inside that ribbon. Let's fold it onto our card. There's still a couple more touches. I told you this is a really pretty card. It's really kind of romantic. I know you wouldn't give it to a guy, but it just has that Victorian romance feel to it. And I love the colors. Now here's what I mean about pushing. Just go ahead right now before you stick it on there. And just make sure, because this is a pretty deep folder, and I find if you don't push everything down, then some of that stuff may fall off. But now it's all pushed on. Holding tight. So 2 more fun touches. I'm gonna take our champagne rhinestones, which are beautiful. And they're champagne colored, but they're also kind of cinnamon cider. Kind of gold, kind of that rose gold, kind of all these colors that we have working for us right now. So I'm gonna add 5. So I'm gonna do 3 of the little ones and just put them wherever. And then 2 big ones maybe, and 3 little ones, it doesn't matter. You just don't want to do an even number, although on this card there's quite enough going on that probably if you had an even number, it's not going to draw anybody's eyes to the wrong spot. Then for our final last little touch, isn't that pretty? I have the bumblebee trinkets. Just grab one of these, just lay them on here and then pull. You can use a glue dot if you want, but this holds it fine. And there we go. Isn't that beautiful? I really am in love with this card. I could almost paint a room. Sometimes, you know, when you stamp, it's a little dangerous because you're like, oh, there's a color combination that could go with, but it's really pretty. So if you're interested in doing my peach class, when you do one of my online classes, the only time you ever see the projects is in the online class. So this isn't one of the projects, but you would have the supplies and then you'd be able to do it. So everybody have a great day. All the information is on my website about the paper sale, my classes, my monthly thank you gifts and all that. Have a great one. Bye.